Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the co-owner and creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to deal with or address a dismissive avoidant, but also a fearful avoidant or anxious preoccupied or secure for that matter, being passive aggressive in their communication. Now, I've done a video before about like why the dismissive avoidant tends to be passive aggressive and sort of some of the underlying reasons that come with it. I will do a quick synopsis of this really briefly for a moment, but then I'm going to actually talk to you about like a script and something you can say and how you can address this so that you actually resolve it, because I know passive aggression can be extremely triggering for some people, and it can also be a total it can just create a total lack of resolution in a situation that we really want to be able to address and set a boundary around. So before I dive into all of this stuff, you can use the coupon code with you, all one word, for 25% off all of our membership bundles right now. We're just doing this for a limited time. The coupon code is with you. Again, all one word. I'll leave a link in the description box below and also in this video. And it basically gives you access to our all access membership pass. So it's like all tools, all courses, all workbooks, all previous webinars. I do 4 live webinars every single week with our community members. There's amazing people in there who are so supportive and just so smart and fantastic. I'm so impressed by everybody. And people are really, really healing and having quite profound experiences. So it basically dives into everything at a subconscious level that you want to break through and work through. And we have all the supportive tools and resources in there. So let's talk about this. So why are people passive aggressive? Well, passive aggression is usually a symptom of an unmet need not being communicated, which festers as resentment and then comes across in a passive way, because usually the other ingredient in there is that somebody either overall or in that moment is feeling conflict avoidant. So it's like they rise up, this charge rises up where they're frustrated, and instead of going, I am frustrated, and communicating directly, there's usually some kind of aversion to conflict. This is why dismissive avoidance generally can be the most passive aggressive, or fearful avoidance can sort of fall into there too. Because it's like, fearful avoidants will avoid conflict, and then when they are in conflict, they won't avoid conflict at all. They'll be very, very conflicting and intense because there's like a buildup of unresolved stuff going on. But it's the result of like not communicating healthily. And sometimes dismissive avoidance will be passive aggressive 3 days later, and then they'll say, oh yeah, like, and I've seen this in working with couples for so long. I'll see like a partner say, yeah, I was passive aggressive, and that comment was because 4 days ago when situation X happened, I was upset then. And it's like, wow, it got held on to and festered for 4 days. And sometimes that's actually the result of something festering, but it's actually repressed for the first couple days, and then it comes up when it feels safer to feel because it's not as charged. It then comes up where that emotional repression gate has sort of lifted ever so slightly, but then the dismissive avoidant is also conflict avoidant, and then it sort of you can imagine it's sort of like this charge pushing it out, and this competing subconscious program and all that is basically made up of all the negative stored associations around conflict and what it means, having this like back pull, this drag on the comment, right? So it's like this comment wanting to come up, it being dragged back, and then it kind of comes out as like this passive and aggressive comment, right, at the same time. I often joke with people like dismissive avoidants can be very passive aggressive when they're frustrated, and fearful avoidants tend to be either very passive or very aggressive, and sort of there's not very much of an in-between, which isn't always the case, but it's just a dynamic I see amongst the avoidant attachment styles that does definitely have a pattern. So if this is something you're on the receiving end of, okay, number one, we're not saying like it's you should only do the work. I think sometimes I put videos out about like how to manage these situations, and sometimes I think people insinuate that I'm saying you should cope with the person's passive aggression, and that it's only you that should be doing the work. And the answer is no, I'm never saying that. I'm just giving you supportive tools for you to work on empowering yourself, healing yourself, addressing situations in the best form possible, because the more healed and clear and clean of painful programs you become, it is so much easier to leave relationships that are not working. We're not stuck in dynamics that are toxic because we don't have programs that keep us there. We do the work, we empower ourselves, and then we can be ready for the best relationship possible. But that starts with the best relationship to ourselves. And so much of this channel is about you doing that inner work so that you can then create everything else that you want to create externally. So if this is you in a dynamic on the recipient end, this can be a coworker that's passive aggressive, this can be a partner, this could be one of your children, this could be anybody. If you're in this dynamic, I always recommend calling it out directly. And I don't mean like calling it out like getting all angry and like calling somebody out. I mean like just being extremely approach oriented. Nothing ends passive aggression in another person's actions like just direct approach oriented behavior. So you can say something like this, and then I'll go through and tell you, like I'll break it apart after for you and tell you why it matters and what key parts are necessary and why it works. So you might say something like, hey, I don't know if you meant anything by that, but that comment you made felt really passive aggressive and sort of filled with contempt to me. If there's something specific you'd like to speak about, I would love if you can speak to me directly about it, and please know that you can do so and I'm happy to hold space for it. However, if there's just passive aggressive remarks that are being remade, it's definitely really counterproductive, and I unfortunately cannot hold space for that in this relationship. And so that's something I would say around that. Again, I'm always overdoing it in these script videos, and in the whole course. I did a whole course about this, and I'm always making it as detail oriented as possible so you can shorten it, you can take key parts, but that you see the overall picture. Now, why is somebody passive aggressive? Because they're upset and because they're afraid of conflict. So what did you just do? You said, I will hold space for why you're upset. So you're addressing the root problem. You also set a boundary around the passive aggression because it's very counterproductive and it just leaves both people feeling resentful, and it's somebody like sort of spitting poison at another person, and it doesn't do anything except create resentment on both ends. So you said, I'm not okay with that. And you were also very direct. Now, that has a potential couple of different outcomes. Outcome number one, that directness can make somebody go, oh, geez, if I do try to say something passive aggressive, it doesn't go well with that person, and it feels like we're moving towards the problem very quickly. And somebody who's uneasy around that, they might just stop being passive aggressive. They might just realize, okay, that doesn't work, and it can put an end to it very quickly. That's especially effective with like a boss, a coworker, something like that. In a relationship dynamic, by you doing that, you're also letting the person know, like, I want to hear the root problem, and it doesn't feel good for me to be on the receiving end. So you're reminding somebody who's usually, if they're being passive aggressive, they're quite immersed in their own internal reality, and they're so like engulfed in that moment by their frustration towards you for something that they're not realizing that, hey, I'm actually starting a conflict, I'm actually starting a fight, I'm actually hurting somebody through saying or doing these things, and that's highly counterproductive, and that has an impact as well. And in fact, that only brings me further back towards the conflict. So you really take that person, you sort of have like a couple different outcomes. Number one, the person will be like, passive aggression doesn't work, and they won't do that again. Number two, they'll go, oh yeah, I'm hurt, and oh yeah, I just hurt that person as well, and oh yeah, there is something underlying here, which sometimes when somebody's being passive aggressive, believe it or not, they don't even consciously recognize. And then it actually creates a dynamic where open communication becomes a new trajectory instead of this like stifled resentment, passive aggressive remarks that are happening. So I hope that makes sense. In the course inside the school, I talk about like different objections that can come up and how to dive further into that. What I'll probably do is put some videos on here at some point about just potential different objections overall and like overarching themes, because there just isn't enough time for like short form videos to do all of it. But maybe some like overarching themes of different objections that can come up in communication around sort of key scenarios and try to link them back a little bit. But for the most part, like these scripts and the way that they're written, they are written to target all core problems of how communication can go wrong. So they're very effective. Of course, we can be dealing with like challenging people, really difficult people, and sometimes we have to tailor our approach, and sometimes we have to try things again or pivot a little bit and And that can be challenging, and that's sometimes people with personality disorders or addictions or that are just really wounded and in their trauma. But if you're dealing with like most people, you're going to see that these scripts really break down and start creating change. So I highly recommend like I'm making a lot of scripting videos, and I just recommend like taking them in and like learning about these principles of communication and recognizing some of the patterns behind them, like validating people's emotions, being approach oriented, opening the dialogue instead of closing it. Like you'll see a lot of these patterns embedded within, and I try to go back and sort of talk about them too. So anyways, this is such an important topic to me, and it's been so powerful for me as a human being to learn how to effectively communicate, and it's transformed all of my relationships and all of my relationships in life to come, and I'm so grateful for it. So I spent a lot of time studying this and studying the principles around it. So I'm just really happy and excited to be able to share it with you guys, and hopefully it has the same sort of impact on you. So thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you're getting a lot of value out of this channel, and I will see you in the next video.